Welcome to This Explainer. Settle in, grab a comfortable seat, and, maybe pour yourself a glass of something warm. Today, we're taking a nice, slow, easy journey through a 230-year, multi-generational saga. We're going to explore the enduring spirit of one single family, the Beams, and how their absolute dedication to a craft literally shaped the world of American whiskey. So how exactly did a surplus crop of 18th century corn create a multi-billion-dollar whiskey dynasty that spans 8 generations? Well, it's a story of incredible craftsmanship. It's a story of survival against all odds, really, and of an unwavering, unbroken dedication to what is a truly American spirit. Let's just open up this family storybook. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the roots of the Beam dynasty. Second, surviving the Prohibition era. Third, the small batch revolution. Fourth, historic acquisitions and expansion. And finally, the modern global era. Section 1, Roots of the Beam Dynasty, the early generations. Let's go ahead and anchor ourselves in the late 1700s, right when this unbroken lineage first took root in Kentucky. Let's trace those really early foundational days. Back in 1795, a farmer and grain mill operator named Jacob Beam sold his very first barrel of Old Jake Beam sour mash. Moving down the timeline to 1840, we see the Hayden family creating a commercial distillery. Now keep that name in the back of your mind because it's going to become a major Beam connection a little later on. Then, jumping to 1894, the family torch passes to the 4th generation when James Beauregard Beam, Jim Beam himself, takes over the Old Tub whiskey brand. The secret to their early success really came down to the science behind the craft. That first-generation Jacob Beam tapped into Kentucky's natural limestone aquifers. That water is rich in minerals and super low in iron, which is basically the holy grail for whiskey making. Combine that beautiful, crisp limestone water with a proprietary family yeast, and Jacob was able to distill his leftover corn into a distinctly sweeter whiskey. It completely stood out from the thousands of other distillers operating in the region at the time. Section 2, Surviving the Prohibition Era. The U.S. votes itself dry. Things take a bit of a dark turn here, as an existential threat suddenly looms over the entire American distilling industry. And that threat materialized fast. In 1919, the 18th Amendment is ratified. By 1920, the Volstead Act enacts prohibition. Literally overnight, making the family's lifeblood becomes a crime. So during these dry years, the Beam family just had to survive. They actually sold their distillery and, believe it or not, went into the coal mining and stone crushing businesses for a bit. They had to wait out 13 long years until 1933, when the 21st Amendment finally repealed prohibition. So what happens next? Well, at 70 years old, after a 13-year hiatus, 4th-generation Jim Beam didn't just quietly retire. No way. He bought land and rebuilt the Claremont distillery by hand in just 120 days after repeal. He actually recreated that famous family yeast from scratch, totally resurrecting the business. I mean, talk about sheer, undeniable determination. Section 3, The Small Batch Revolution. Booker knows vision. This brings us into the modern age and introduces us to a truly larger-than-life figure. To really understand his impact, we've got to look at the contrast of the times. On one hand, you had the pre-prohibition style of whiskey, undiluted, unfiltered, high-proof, and aged for a long time. But on the other hand, the industry was heading deep into the clear spirits era. Lighter, clear spirits like vodka and gin were exploding in popularity, and the traditional bourbon market was just getting battered. So, Booker knows' brilliant answer to all this? 2 simple words: small batch. He actually coined that exact phrase. Small batch refers to ultra-premium whiskeys that are handcrafted in limited quantities from unique family recipes. He basically created the entire super premium bourbon category just to bring people back to real, robust flavor. I absolutely love this quote from Booker No. He said, "Straight from the barrel, the way bourbon used to be." You can honestly just hear his dedication in those words, can't you? He wasn't just making a drink, he was actively preserving a 120-plus proof, unfiltered, incredibly authentic legacy. By 1992, his vision really came to life with the launch of the Small Batch collection, and each brand brought something totally unique to the table.
First, we have Booker's, which is that 120-plus proof unfiltered powerhouse. Then there's Knob Creek. That one has a long 9-year aging process that brings out this incredible maple sugar aroma and a rich, woody caramel flavor. We also have Basil Hayden's, an 80-proof pre-Prohibition style whiskey, named after that historic 18th century distiller we mentioned a little earlier. And finally, Baker's, which is beautifully handcrafted from unique family recipes.
Section 4. Historic Acquisitions and Expansion, Growing the Portfolio. Let's see how the Beam family legacies started to intertwine with some other pretty legendary names. What's truly fascinating about this specific era is just the sheer scale of their expansion. Back in 1987, the James B. Beam Distilling Company purchased the spirits business of National Distillers. This was a massive acquisition, bringing some seriously historic, legendary brands right under their roof. It brought the high rye bourbon Old Grandad into the portfolio. It added Old Overholt, which is a traditional rye whiskey. Even historic names like Old Crow and Old Taylor joined the Beam family. And crucially, picking up Old Grandad provided the historical foundation that Booker No needed to create Basil Hayden's just a few years later. They really embraced this shared legacy too, by coining a catchy marketing moniker, the Olds. This playfully linked Old Grandad and Old Overholt together, celebrating their shared history from the old National Distillers days, back when they were produced side by side in Kentucky and Ohio. Section 5. The Modern Global Era, 7th and 8th Generations. Let's bring our narrative right into the present day. There's this really charming anecdote about how Booker No wanted his son, Fred, to learn the business from the ground up. He famously told him, "You go to the night shift bottling line. You're pretty damn close to the ground." So Fred No, the 7th generation, didn't just inherit a fancy title. He actually earned it. He put in the time working those night shifts and learning literally every single aspect of the craft. And that boots-on-the-ground education translated into massive modern success. Fred No introduced awesome global innovations like Devil's Cut, Red Stag, and Single Barrel. Then, the 8th generation, Freddie No, steps up right alongside his dad and launches the highly acclaimed Little Book series. From there, the global expansion is just incredible. We're talking a 2014 acquisition by Suntory for a staggering $16 billion. In 2021, they open up the state-of-the-art Fred B. No craft distillery. And then, in 2024, the parent company actually rebrands to Suntory Global Spirits, perfectly reflecting this absolutely monumental global scale. Their commitment to the future is just as massive, by the way. In 2022, a $400 million investment was announced to expand whiskey production capacity over at the Booker No Distillery in Boston, Kentucky. So they are actively securing their ability to meet all this global demand for years and years to come. Now just wrap your head around this number. 19 million. In August 2025, the James B. Beam Distilling Company filled its 19 millionth barrel of Kentucky bourbon since the end of Prohibition. I mean, wow, that is a staggering milestone and a real testament to their enduring popularity all over the world. What's really compelling here, though, is their strategy. It shows a brand that's entirely confident in its legacy. In December 2025, Beam announced a strategic pause in distillation at the main Claremont distillery for the entire year of 2026. They're momentarily stopping production there just to invest in major site enhancements. They're basically taking a breath to make sure their historic home is completely ready for the next century. So, as they pause to prepare the distillery for tomorrow, it really makes you wonder, what will the next century of this enduring American spirit taste like? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer of the Beam family legacy. It's definitely a question well worth pondering the next time you sit down, relax, and pour yourself a glass.